Okay. We do not allow things like this to happen, where barriers are moved by the contractor at random, just to make way for their own convenience. So you can see here, it's designed, the traffic protection is designed to allow two-lane traffic to pass through, but the contractor has decided on himself to shift the barrier out, and you can see there's a kink there. Now the two-lane has been reduced to single lane, and that creates a safety hazard to the road users. So these are the things that we are planning to make sure that it does not happen on the MRT project. Another element is the separation of traffic, live traffic, and the work zones. So here is a good example of clear separation of traffic from the work zones. Okay, the areas are separated by the barriers and the hoardings that are put in place by the contractor. Of course, when work zones cut off a particular and existing pedestrian walkway, then we will make sure that there are alternative routes for the pedestrian. As you can see here, the pedestrian walkway is being protected while work is going on. Hoardings must be installed, and it has to be of proper type. We do not allow any kind of hoarding to be installed. They have to be of proper type, such as this one, which are purpose-built. These are meant to be placed alongside live traffic. The hoardings are basically to prevent any debris from coming out onto traffic, onto the public, and it's also meant to prevent the road users from getting distracted by the construction activities. In any project where there are different work zones set up along the alignment, there must be proper channelization of traffic to safely carry the traffic through the work zones. So you can see here, traffic is clearly protected from the work areas and channeled properly with adequate tapering distances and taper lengths. This is another example where traffic is barricaded from the work zones. So these are good practices in traffic management. Okay, again, proper traffic channelization or guidance when approaching the work zones. Here you can see that the barriers are properly aligned to make sure that traffic can channel smoothly through the work areas. This is a common mistake made by many contractors, which we can see in Malaysia. Signs when installed, warning signs must be clear and must be visible. So we will not allow for things like this to happen on the MRT project. Okay, there must be well-planned transition zones for long-term and short-term diversions. Long-term diversions are basically diversions that could take over a few months. Short-term are probably diversions that take place within a day or 2 days. So it must be manned by flagmen. If they are work at night, then the work must be prepared properly. Contractor must have adequate lighting, adequate warning signs to be installed at their work zones. You can see here, this is a bad example where there are insufficient lighting and there are no traffic protection at all at the work areas where the excavator is working. This is what it should be like, where there are sufficient illumination, sufficient blinkers and reflective cones to guide the traffic safely through the work zones. This is another good example where there are sufficient lighting through the work zones. Okay, and of course, to implement that successfully, we will make sure that there are sufficient equipment such as the cones and the protection barriers in place. When using the equipment, the contractors are required to use them properly in the correct manner, the way it's intended to be used. For example, here when they put up the plastic barriers, the barriers must be water-filled as it is designed. There must be blinkers adequately installed. Here you see the contractor has drawn the road marking to ensure that the alignment is in place and it is not misaligned. So this alignment has to be checked from time to time. Okay, whatever traffic protection equipment that are installed must be maintained, must be clean, especially for traffic passing through the work zones at night. This is to ensure that there is sufficient reflectivity to guide the traffic through the work zones. Roads around the work areas will be maintained. Potholes must be quickly patched up. And roads surrounding the work zone must also be clean of dust. You can see here, dust is accumulating on the road. So this is something that we will not allow on the MRT project. Okay, and for the MRT project, the contractors are required to follow strict standard operating procedures to ensure that their work does not pose any hazard to road users and the public. Okay, as I mentioned just now, part of the traffic management setup would involve the setting up of an emergency response team, or what we call the ERT. So the ERT must be quick to respond to accidents or incidences that may happen around the work areas. So the traffic management plan works together in conjunction with other initiatives that we set up. Here, I'm showing that the traffic management plan interfaces with two other systems that we have. On the right is public information or public engagements, and on the left is our complaint management system. So what I mean here is that once we have designed the traffic management plan, once we have determined the timing of when these works are going to take place, at which location, in what scale, then we would go out and make sure that the public is informed before the work starts, giving the public ahead information. And then once the work starts, the traffic protection is implemented, then we would monitor the implementation through our complaint management system. So it works hand in hand. The project needs to have, given the complexity of the project and given the fact that it's passing through very heavily trafficked roads. So remember, like I mentioned earlier, the whole idea is to minimize inconvenience to the public. So the emergency response team's sole function is to be there within a certain time to make sure that any problems that may arise from on the road, such as like congestion or any emergencies, are dealt with quickly. They can attend to it quickly. You will see the emergency response team truck moving around the site. They'll have the MRT logo. They'll have the MRT hotline number there. You can call the hotline number. It will patch through our complaint management system, which will dispatch the message immediately to the emergency response team, and they will be on site within 15 minutes. These situations could be things like an accident, which is creating a 2-hour jam. Or, for example, after a heavy downpour, a branch might fall off the tree and block the lane. Again, maybe a jam for another, a few hundred meters. So they will be there to quickly remove the obstacle from the road so that traffic can flow smoothly.
How many motorists are affected? Wow. We wouldn't have the figure, but you can imagine, for example, when we if we look at this Jalan Damansara in front of TTDI here, you can see the amount of traffic that is passing there. We don't have the specific numbers, but that's the whole point. We recognize that there's a lot of traffic in the areas that we're working on. So we're trying to ensure that there will be no lane closures, or lane closures are enforced during low traffic or zero traffic, which is like midnight to 5 a.m. Or alternative routes are informed to everyone. Are there further questions? Yes.
How to ensure your contractor follow all your standards so an action will taken against
Yes.
them?
Okay, this is
Question.
we have at the very onset of the tender specified all these requirements in the documents. So when the contractor is successful and awarded the job, so it is all these requirements are a contractually binding obligation that they have to comply with. Okay. So the contractors are aware that we will be monitoring this, and if they do not comply, we can penalize them.
The understanding and the patience of Kuala Lumpur road users as we go through the process of building this iconic world-class infrastructure for Malaysia, for Kuala Lumpur, that they bear with the construction, they bear with the impending jams that will occur in these areas. But we are building something for the future for Kuala Lumpur. Kuala Lumpur today, what do we have? We have the nice tall buildings, the nice tall structures. We have the nice heritage buildings, which I may remind people that we are protecting. We have great shopping in beautiful malls and also street shopping. We have obviously great food. But when we talk about Kuala Lumpur, a lot of people complain about public transportation system. So inshallah, in a few years' time, with the patience of the drivers, the road users, with the good practices that will be implemented by MRT Co and PDP, we will have an iconic system of public transportation in Kuala Lumpur that people will mention, inshallah, along the names of the transport systems in Hong Kong, in Singapore, as well as in London. If you go to London, you won't have a second thought. You will travel by the underground system. So we want to build the system for Kuala Lumpur to ensure that this game changer for KL will be here for the benefit of everyone, including ourselves and the future generations. Okay, so that's what I'm trying to say. Let's together work and be patient with this construction so that we have a world-class infrastructure in the future. Now, the other thing is that my number and my address is here. I have run out of business cards. I've met so many of your friends in the last couple of weeks. So if you need to have more information, my numbers and my email is there. So I'll be more than happy, my team and I will be more than happy to take questions from you further on this issue.
The personnel phones might find sometimes affected by the incident.
How many of these vehicles do you have?
Really good.